Thanks so much. So I'm Antoinne Fourie, if you don't know me. I've written a few things down because there's a lot to say, and a lot more that I could say. But my journey as a follower of Christ started about 28 years ago. And like I said, I could share so much more about the Lord's providence over the years. But today I'm going to focus just on the last 3 to 6 years, and particularly the last 2 years. As many of you know, I'm married to Yolanda, and we're blessed to have a son of 12 and a daughter of 10 who also attend DBC. I've been working as a linguist for the last 20 years in roles like linguistics lecturer, language trainer, tutor, coach, and editor. Just a bit of background. You'll see shortly why I'm telling you that. Then, about 8 years ago, I was in a very unhealthy work environment, and this was actually in Joburg. And it started being so bad that more and more I had to do this like last minute, overnight work. It just happened increasingly, and I couldn't honor my home and church commitments anymore. So it was evident that I just had to find another job because it couldn't go on like that. So after more than a year of unsuccessful job hunting in Gauteng, I had to look elsewhere. I then applied to, among others, I applied to a non-profit in Cape Town, the name Fourie, which interviewed me, and interestingly, it was on my birthday in February, and they offered, shortly after that, they offered me a position and an all expenses paid relocation. So even with all of that, it was still quite a challenging step for us for various reasons, but we felt that the Lord was leading us, and we followed the way that God had made for us. So then I was here in Cape Town for the first 8 months by myself without my wife and kids, as we had decided that it would be best for them to stay in Joburg and finish the school year there. So that was obviously quite challenging. But what was great is the working conditions at Fourie were flexible and fulfilling, and I could really work from the side of the sports field. I could spend quality time with my family ultimately once they were here, and I could even do some part-time music performances here and there. Met new musicians and so on, which was awesome. So, but not long after that, well, probably about 2 years later, my mom was diagnosed with oral cancer, and I had never even realized that something like that really existed, or you don't really hear a lot about that. But anyway, so that was in 2019, and she had to undergo major reconstructive surgery. So the company I worked for then, Fourie, made it possible for me to visit my mom in hospital and just be there for her. They paid for almost all my flights, and just in return for attending some in-person meetings with a partner organization in Johannesburg. So that was just an amazing provision to have been able to do that. But during the same year, there was a company restructure at this company. I was promoted to manager, which seemed great at the time, but I soon had to do two people's job. Everything I used to do, plus everything my boss used to do. And anyway, the time with my mom in and out of hospital was really traumatic. And then on top of all of that, all this extra work. And it started affecting me both emotionally and physically. By the end of that year, 2019, I was so depleted that I ended up in hospital with pneumonia. Then COVID entered, which brought the challenge of doing all this work remotely. So it was already challenging, but now it was all online, and I was staring at a computer screen 10 to 12 hours a day just to get the work done, often non-stop, attending online meeting after online meeting, and having to manage disgruntled employees who weren't used to this working online thing, and they were just generally disgruntled. Now, trying to manage them without being able to engage or connect with them in person was really challenging. After 2 years of working like that, And on top of the impact of my mom's illness on me, I was still emotionally and more so and physically exhausted. I didn't realize it at the time, but this traumatic experience led to me losing what we would call my executive function. So that's something you really need as a manager to be able to make decisions and so on. So I no longer had the capacity to think quickly and make decisions, good decisions, or just being able to make decisions generally at home and at work. I had developed bad habits like sitting nonstop without any movement and with limited in-person people interaction. Unsurprisingly, that led to health issues. I had heart attack symptoms, severe abdominal pain, later severe sinus pain, and after countless tests, I was diagnosed with severe irritable bowel syndrome. So it's not the worst thing, but I was in a lot of pain. And due to all the pain, I just couldn't really eat. There were many foods that I couldn't eat, and I lost a lot of weight very quickly. It affected my back and all kinds of things. And around that time, we felt it would be ideal for my dad-in-law, who was still in Joburg and had lost his cousin during COVID. We thought it would be best for him to join us in Cape Town so we could support him and be there for him, and he could be there for us. And we found what we thought would be the perfect place, and were given a home loan based on our combined capital and combined income at the time, and just really felt, just very grateful that that was possible. But by the time we moved into this house, which was now 2 years ago, I had just heard that I would be retrenched. And if you haven't been retrenched before, it's like, it's a big deal. And this happened as an aftershock of COVID. And in this burnt out state that I was in, I really felt anxious and I struggled to see a way out. And just an example of how exhausted and discombobulated I was, while moving into this house, I actually reversed my car into the tree that was just next to the driveway. And anyway, so it's funny now, but it wasn't funny then, but at least no one got hurt. Anyway, so during this retrenchment consultation process, which is required in South Africa at this company, I did everything I could think of, and I couldn't think very clearly at the time. And nothing that was said really could change what had already been decided. So my dad-in-law was selling his house and was moving to Cape Town to live with us. And all we could do was to trust that God would make a way to enable us to hold on to the house. Otherwise, we might be on the street, he might be, what do we do? So at times we doubted whether we'd be able to make ends meet, but the Lord provided in amazing ways. Many of you were praying for us and encouraging us. And then with my dad-in-law here, he helped to ensure that we could pay our monthly home loan repayments, and he just helped in many other respects as well. Then, just quickly, so exactly 5 years after my initial interview, which you remember at Fourie, which was on my birthday, 5 years ago, exactly 5 years ago, again on my birthday, I was now interviewed with another company, or by another company, and I was actually in bed with COVID, so I was interviewed from my bed. And I was interviewed by an all-online tech company, Fourie. And it was soon after my official last day at Fourie that I heard that I got the job at Fourie to review educational content and so on. And at this company, it was great. I actually slowly started healing from the burnout. My IBS started disappearing. I could eat again. I started looking healthier, but I still lacked energy and motivation. My interaction and performance with fellow musicians and just also my involvement at church really helped a lot to pull me away from the computer work, but it just wasn't enough for some reason. I felt in my spirit that I needed a further breakthrough, and that was during that time also where we had the breakthrough series here at church. I felt I needed that breakthrough away from the online work that took up so many hours each day. So I started praying for a breakthrough, just voicing to God that, and to people around me my desire to do less computer work. To have a reason to get dressed every day and to work with people in person, which I really enjoy and which energizes me. In the meantime, the computer work continued and new health issues arose. So those things were kind of lingering there. At the same time, we hadn't seen our family in Portugal for 7 years, and so we decided to borrow money from family and our home loan to pay for air tickets to visit them. And that was in July this year, before my son turned 12. We were given free accommodation, borrowed an old car from family, and so on, and that all made it possible. Little did we know that within a week of returning, I would hear that this new company, Fourie, is retrenching 25 to 30% of its workforce. So here we go again. 3 of the 5 team members on my team would be retrenched. We were told 2 in South Africa and 1 in Europe. Each person had only a few days to decide whether to enter into this voluntary separation with next to no financial benefit or to run the risk of being retrenched. And neither option was really an option. And it felt like we had woken up in some demented game. Some people were saying this is like the Hunger Games, because many team members' Slack communicator accounts were just deactivated instantly, one after the other. We just didn't know who would be next. Only later were we told that those deactivated people were either contractors or individuals in other territories or countries where the legislation didn't require any consultation. So in South Africa, the legislation requires a consultation process, whether it means something or not. Among us, the consensus based on our experience with past retrenchments and so on was that retrenchment consultations in South Africa always go the same way. The company considers all its options, decides how many people it needs to retrench, and then starts this process, this red tape, to determine who it will be. And there's no way to avoid what has already been decided. But in my spirit, I felt this time could be different. Through my first retrenchment, I believe the Lord had prepared me for the second retrenchment process. All of a sudden, and this is just so amazing, all of a sudden I had regained my executive function, so that ability to make decisions. The gift of God's peace enabled me to think clearly, which I wasn't able to do for a long time, and enabled me to lead and facilitate the writing of a proposal for an alternative to retrenchment of our team of 5, who it turned out were all willing to work part-time rather than having no job. And with God's grace, I was able to remain completely calm. I even surprised myself. I was like, what's happening? And I knew this was just God's working. I was able to remain completely calm and to pull together the people and the proposal. The Lord enabled me to use the skills that He had given me for Him to do something new and great through me. Now, the Fourie, this company's executives were astounded and said that they'd never received such a proposal during a retrenchment process. They said it had such clear and valid recommendations that they couldn't ignore it. They said they had not considered what we were proposing as an alternative, and they said they agreed that it would benefit both the company and us in the long term. So rather than retrenching 2 of us, they agreed to reduce all 5 affected team members' roles to 70% part-time and committed to increasing our roles as the company grows. But, which in my case is an important but those who want to remain part-time would be able to. So for someone like me, who actually needs to do less computer work, it's like, wow. Especially you'll see what comes next. And our updated contracts allowed us to do part-time work for other employers. The most amazing thing was the impact of God's work on my colleagues. So there was this impact on the executives who were just astounded and were like, wow. But my colleagues, they were blown away by how calm I was during the process, how I was able to pull everyone together and just having that clarity of thought. And I was also blown away by that because I was struggling with this brain fog and not being able to think clearly for so long. I was able to say to them, to my colleagues, that it was only through God's grace and peace that I was able to do that. So what a wonderful opportunity, just witness. And so, out of the blue, Redham House, Durbanville, where my wife works, required a locum teacher to teach Afrikaans for 4 weeks in October this year. They only needed someone they needed someone only for 7 hours a week, and only for those 4 weeks. And those hours would be scattered throughout the week. So it wouldn't be, how easily do you find someone who would be able and available to do something like that? But I had just become available, and God had given me the perfect flexibility to do it seamlessly, and it was in-person work, something that I really needed. At the same time, the school made it clear, just in passing, so that I'm under no misinformation or whatever, that there wouldn't be similar work for me in 2024. So it was just for the month. The Afrikaans classes I would teach for a month had already been allocated to another teacher who would from January no longer teach biology, since her biology was made part of another position. But we and others were praying that God would make a way, and He did. After the school had finalized its planning for 2024, and this was only a few weeks ago, maybe 2 weeks ago, the timetable had been finalized, and all of that, and was at a point where it couldn't be redone. But then soon after that, they ran into a small challenge. Its Afrikaans and English Cambridge IGCSE classes were at full capacity. So the school wouldn't have been able to accept additional students, nor allow students to change to those subjects. So again, God had prepared the soil. He had given me the opportunity in October to show the value I am able to add to the school, and I was available to step in. The school offered me a 30% part-time position for 2024, exactly what they needed to be able to split the classes and to accept more students, and exactly the amount of work I needed and was available to do. How about that? 30% part-time at Redham and 70% part-time at Fourth Rev. And how amazing the provision that Fourth Rev position allows me to do its work completely flexibly around my teaching. They would even move team meetings around, so for these 5 team members, to accommodate me, to enable me to teach. So over many years, the Lord has been preparing the soil, giving me the knowledge, experience, passion, dedication, and so on that I needed for today. He enabled me to confidently step into what He has been preparing for me. So just quickly, briefly, back to my mom. Her cancer has recently become aggressive, and it has spread throughout her body. And it has been incredibly difficult to see her go through the pain and the suffering. But through it, the Lord has blessed and comforted me with a deeper understanding of an eternal mindset. So just knowing the reality of an eternity in heaven without hurt and pain, knowing that we'll be reunited with those who have trusted in Him, knowing that I'll see my mom again after she passes on. And He did this, among others, through a song based on 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 13 to 18. And the song's chorus says, "We will meet Him in the air, and then we will be like Him, and we will see Him as He is. Then all hurt and pain will cease, and we'll be with Him forever, and in His glory we will live." And that's just one of the songs that really I would play over and over and just be reminded of that. So in conclusion, I just want to kind of reiterate a few things. The Lord has blessed me with this deep knowledge and understanding, or deeper knowledge and understanding, that in line with His word, as stated in Philippians 4 verse 19, He truly supplies every need according to His riches in glory in Jesus. And in line with Philippians 4, verse 6 to 7, He provided mentally and spiritually. He enabled me not to be anxious. He has given me His peace, which transcends all understanding, to guard my mind and my spirit in Him. He has taught me to present my requests to Him by prayer and petition, but with thanksgiving in every situation. He has provided physically through things like changes to my work environment, finances, and my physical well-being, and emotionally through support from other believers and the emotional effects of the physical changes. So lastly, I believe the biggest gift I've received is the gift of faith. Being able to know and deeply believe that God provides, that He works in ways we cannot see, that He makes a way where there seems to be no way. And I'd like you to just listen to this song, which I've been listening to over and over as well, which just really says that God will make a way where there seems to be no way. Thank you.